tell me, what is it about your particular characters in the show that you enjoy playing so much?
Well, Granny's pretty feisty. I love that. I love that they've written Granny not to be, you know, cookies and milk and, oh, sit down and I'll read you stories. Like, get your crossbow. I know. And I'm sassy and I get to say some, we had the couple of bigger episodes together, but my character mostly just shows up and says a comment here or there, but usually they're pretty choice comments, so I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I loved how the boys made Red the wolf. I mean, I thought that was just such a brilliant twist, and they told me about it early on into the first season, and I lost my mind. I just thought it was so genius and made so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think it just, especially in like this world that they've created, that of course that's how it goes, you know. And so in my mind, that's just how the story, I mean, I believe the fairy tales that they've written, and that's how that world is, and that they just know something that we don't.
I know, like they'll take one aspect and then blow that part up rather than the traditional, what we know the story to be. Like, I love that when we found out you were the wolf. It's like, what? And the way they write the directions, or the stage directions in between the script when we're reading it, they go, you won't believe it, this is going to blow your blah, blah mind. You know, they'll swear.
They swear a lot.
You're reading,
you never get to see that.
I know. And they go, yes, people, that's right, it's the wolf, you know, and you're reading it. Because when we read it, too, it's the first time. And it's pretty exciting.
To stay on the characters, they made Granny's dinner. I like the irony of that, and I wanted to ask you, well, how do you like this type of irony that the writers are giving to your characters? You being the wolf, you being, well, having a dinner.
Having a diner?
One. Yeah, instead of being one. Because technically you're eaten by the wolf. But this time I like
where you're going with this.
So
So I have the diner, and so...
you're supposed to be it.
And I'm supposed to be dinner.
Yeah.
Ah, nice.
I've never heard that connection.
I've never heard that
before.
either, but that's great.
That's my
Get Eddie and
cousin.
Adam on the line.
She told me that.
Who told you that? Your wife?
My little cousin.
Your little cousin.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, you know what? I'm sure the boys, Adam and Eddie, I'm sure they have thought of that, because there's layers and layers that you watch something and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But personally, I love having Granny's Diner because everything happens at Granny's Diner. Every party, every funeral, every, welcome back. Oh my God, where are they? And everyone eats at Granny's. So
Granny's has got some good food, and it's very cheap.
It's really cheap.
There's a board above the like where the cash register is, and it's got all the prices for everything. You can get, you can get like breakfast for 60 cents there.
I know. I think the prices are locked in 20 years ago when the first curse came and everything froze, so the prices never went up.
Yeah.
Although we all have cell phones and like really great clothes. You get to wear great clothes, and Belle, like she wears $1,000 shoes. Where do they come from? We don't know.
She sells her used books
on eBay,
she has rare
but we can't get out of
books.
Storybrooke.
So Meghan, you obviously weren't in the show much this season because of Intelligence. Are you going to be back more next season?
That remains to be seen. Intelligence, I'm sure, just got cancelled, as you know. So I have some more time on my hands. I did not have a ton of time. I was supposed to be around more than we thought I was able to last year. So that was unfortunate. But yeah, most likely I'll be running around in my cape.
I hope so.
Season 4, yeah.
I hope so. I hope they write some more.
Yeah, I think we need to have another fight.
Another fight, yeah.
We for some reason just kind of regress a little bit.
I know, and go way back in time.
Yeah.
So I can use my red hair.
Where would you guys like to see your characters going in the next season and the story overall?
Well, I mean, season 3 ended on such a, new note, I think, with, a new villain coming potentially, and, there all these crazy things have been happening, and so I don't really know where they're going to take season 4, but I can pretty much guarantee it'll be something that you've never thought of, that none of us have ever thought of, and is going to be amazing. And
there's lots of suggestions out there on Twitter. And
what have been your favourite ones so far? The suggestions?
Suggestions?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people think we're going into the Frozen with Ilsa. I'm not saying that for sure. I do not know. I'm just saying what I've heard on Facebook and Twitter. And the fans, you guys know more. They know more than we do. I just hope we get to come along for the ride. You know, it was Neverland was a great storyline, but all of us in Storybrooke just stayed quietly in Storybrooke and waited for them to come back. So it would hopefully something that filters back and forth between Storybrooke and some other land, be it Frozen or.
I kind of hope we go back to the Enchanted Forest.
I love the Enchanted Forest.
I'd love to do like a whole season, just everyone. And I guess they kind of did that this year a little bit, but like a whole season, just everyone.
The wardrobe, the costumes and everything is
so
great.
fun.
It's just, it's rich. Yeah, and you're usually out in the woods.
Yeah.
Or on green screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is warm and dry.
Yeah.
As opposed to the woods. It's not.
I mean, it's obviously such a fantastic world, not just visually, but in terms of the characters that populate it. I'm curious, apart from your own, are there any other characters that you enjoy just because of the performances, or because they're characters that you perhaps grew up with or kind of identified with from your own experience of fairy tales?
I mean, Snow White was the first movie I ever saw, and so I've always loved Snow White, and I loved that they made Red Riding Hood and Snow White best friends, and so I love all of my scenes with Ginny. We always have a ton of fun together, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. There's a new baby now in their life together, and so it'll be interesting to see how that works into the story. And
You'll be the number one babysitter.
Yeah, me and I'll be Henry and the baby. So
Although Henry probably doesn't need to be babysat anymore.
yeah,
He's growing up and his
it's
voice is
good thing
changing.
there's a new baby. I'd be out of a job.
Yeah. As far as the cast members and everybody, I just think people are doing amazing work on this show. Lana is fantastic, and she has such a complicated role to play, being the mayor and the evil queen and young Regina. So it's like, I think she's got the skookum role for a female actress as far as what they write for her. And Robert Carlyle, his Rumpelstiltskin is just mind-blowing. I love how he always puts the emphasis on not the obvious choice of word, ooh, it's great, it's playful. And I just think he has a blast with that. And so those ones I identify with. But for me as a kid, Red Riding Hood was the fairy tale that I grew up with, and we used to play as a kid. We'd take turns, and sometimes the wolfsman would get killed, sometimes the wolf, and sometimes he wouldn't. Sometimes Granny would be eaten, sometimes she wouldn't. So there's all different versions, I guess.
That's amazing.
But I like this one now. She's the dinner, the diner.
How much training did you have to do for Riley's character in Intelligence?
A lot. I was very tired last year. I actually, one of the most exciting things that I did in training for it was I went to the Secret Service office in downtown Los Angeles and had a tour of their building and spoke with a bunch of officers, and there's pictures on the wall of all of them, with the presidents at the in the inauguration, and the head of the Secret Service who was showing us around. As we're walking down the hallway, there's this wall full of photos, and there's a picture from President Obama's inauguration, from the first one, and he's just walking, like running alongside the president, walking down the road with the motorcade and everything, and he's standing right next to me, and you would never guess that the most intelligent and like humble people, the ones that I met, and yeah, it was fascinating to sort of see how that world worked. And then I had to also do a lot of weapons training, which was crazy. Because I'm from Canada, so I had no experience whatsoever.
A gun?
It's like, so I have to fire this at the wall? Okay.
You look so natural, though. You look great.
Well, thank you. It was fun. It was actually fun. It turns out I'm a pretty good shot, which was pretty funny.
Good.
I'm just talking about Red Riding Hood again. I guess, it's a character that kind of permeates popular culture around the world. And in most versions of the story, it's very much a parable about don't trust predatory men. Men are evil, and it's all about, women not trusting men. I'm curious, to what extent you think your character being the wolf herself kind of turns that on its head a little bit, and do you feel kind of this is saying something different with this story that we haven't seen anywhere else before?
Yeah, I mean, actually, when I was doing research for the role in the first season, I read quite a bit about the mythology behind Red Riding Hood, and back in the day, one of the sayings of losing your virginity was called seeing the wolf, was when you lost your virginity. So that's apparently part of the mythology that led up to that story. But I think that's the thing that's so great about the show is that Adam and Eddie have taken these female characters that have, you know, historically sometimes been, you know, weaker and,
Absolutely.
you know, saved by the men and
The handsome prince.
yeah, exactly. And they've turned everything on its head, and the princesses save themselves, and Red is a great example of that, as being the wolf, as you say. You know, I think that, you know, it's a really great like empowerment device for women, and I think that it's great that like young girls are watching it too, because they're going to grow up with these female characters that can take care of themselves and don't need someone else to come
Fight
in and
for
rescue
themselves,
them.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a really great thing to put out in the world.
Yeah, to stay on this with the wolf, I mean, you have kind of an animal side in the show. How is it to just like let your instincts loose at some point? It must be a very different way to play than in Intelligence, for instance, where you have to be very controlled.
It's very different, and it was really fun to go kind of back and forth a little bit, because I finished Intelligence and then went back to the end of the finale of Once Upon a Time, and it was really fun to kind of go right from that like bound, constricted character to, you know, Ruby's she's very
Passionate.
animalistic. You know, she's a wolf. You know, that's what kind of fuels her, and it's in how they write her. It's in, I can't not do that as I play her, and so it was really fun to kind of have that juxtaposition.
I like at the end of that one episode where you just say, I'm just going to run. And you just go and run. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about favourite episodes, of course, fans have theirs. For you personally, are there any looking back that you're especially proud of, or just have really fond memories of making?
Well, of course, the fondest one was Red Handed, season 1.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That
Filming
was so
up on the
much
top
fun.
of Mount Seymour in the snow and the fog. Like, they didn't have to have a fog machine or anything. It was just there. The beauty it was fantastic. And we had such an arc in that episode. Our characters, the backstory was revealed. And it was great. And our relationship was revealed, and we went through stuff and came out the other side. And then going back and forth between Fairy Tale Land and Storybrooke. So for me, that was fantastic.
That's definitely my favorite episode as well. It was so magical. Like,
truly,
to say, like, we were up in the snow shooting one day, and I kid you not, I took a picture of it, and I think it was on Instagram at some point. But Ginny was standing there, and there were all these birds flying around us, and she put like a little like food in her hand, and a bird landed on her hand. And was just, I have a picture of her standing with a bird on her finger.
Snow White.
In her Snow White costume. I was just like, what's happening?
This is magic.
Like, it just, it was very special and really fun.
Yeah.
And
Well, Helga, who's our first 2 seasons was our script supervisor, and now she's one of the producers. She just always would run around and go, "It's magic! It's magic!" and just spreading that. And that's contagious. You know, there's a great feeling on set. Everybody's... We know we're part of a good show, and especially first season when it was just coming to life. Everyone just loved coming to work, and the crew would come in on Monday morning, and everyone had watched the episode the night before. So it's pretty great, pretty special.
Talking about kind of favorite episodes, I'm gonna say that my favorite bad character is Peter Pan, because he's incredibly evil, and I loved the way that they turned him around, because Peter Pan is supposed to be, let's have fun. But no, in this time he's incredibly bad, and the new character, the bad one, the one from Frozen, do you think, well, she can be that evil? Do you think any bad guy in the future can be as evil
as Peter Pan?
He was horrible. Like, really.
He was so
I
horrible,
love that he was horrible, but he was horrible.
But don't you think it's who speaks to you? Because I loved what Robbie did with Peter Pan. I loved and how they wrote that character. But I also, what Rebecca Mader did with The Wicked Witch of the West, that spoke to me. So for me, maybe it's because I'm a woman, she just got in, and she just enjoyed and relished how evil she was being, and she always did it with a smile on her face. So for me, that particular brand of evil resonated a bit more. So I guess my answer would be yes, because it's maybe for you might not find anyone as evil as Peter Pan, but
so I think it will depend on the future character.
I think it is, and I these, like Adam and Eddie, they're not finished writing yet. They have a lot of ideas cooking, so
yeah,
I would say
too.
If you could see any other characters brought in from that kind of story fairy tale world, whether it be a Disney movie or actual books, who would you like to see brought into the world of Once Upon a Time?
People keep asking if we're going to do like the Lion King or animals, but it would be all green screen, and I think it would get pretty hokey.
We already have the wolf.
The wolf is enough.
The wolf and Simba running around.
I don't know, like they did Frankenstein, that was kind of a surprise. So it can venture out.
I think there are no limits when it comes to Once Upon a Time. That's what I think.
Even Star Wars, do you think they'll overlap with Star Wars?
Well, we had Princess Leia.
Okay.
That's true. That's true. Although that was just Emma. Who do you think? Who would you guys like to see?
Well, I mean, I think I'd love to see the people from Frozen, just because, who doesn't want to build a snowman?
And it's also so popular and contemporary. It can only, enhance the show.
We do have lots of snow available in Vancouver.
We sure do.
So that might be something.
How did you feel when you first saw Ruby's costume? Because it's quite short.
I laughed. I laughed very, very hard. But the thing is that it actually completely made sense to me that she would, with how they were telling the story and with how the curse went in Storybrooke, that Ruby's curse, with the story of Red Riding Hood being about a cautionary tale about sex and everything, that the opposite end of that would be a girl who has, this like overt sexuality and is, basically the opposite of this. Is not cautious of predatory men, actually seeks them out, is the predator herself. And so I thought that it made total sense, but I was very cold all the time.
Oh, she was so cold. And every time they'd yell cut, she'd take her shoes, the heels, I'm taking these shoes off and put your Uggs on or something.
Yeah.
You walked so beautifully and then but cut, oh, my feet.
The worst, do you remember my thigh-high red, like,
yes.
I have these, you can't totally tell because I usually wear them with red pants, but these like plastic thigh-high red boots with platforms that are about this big that like lace up. And they're kind of comfortable actually, but they're just, they pinch as well, and it's just...
They went to some shady stores to buy your shoes.
Did.
Yeah.
It was fun though. It was
Granny
like
would just
dress
roll
up
her
every
eyes
day.
at them.
Halloween.
I remember after you watched season 1, you went, oh my God, they shot so much of my butt. look at those camera
I was so
angles.
too. I bent over a lot, and they definitely zoomed in on my butt. I didn't know that was happening.
We all knew it was happening. You were just acting away. Like,
for
whoa.
actors.
Sell
Sell the eye candy.
team player.
Yeah.